The air is still enough that even the grass seems to hesitate. Somewhere beyond the tree line, engines idle at a low, patient hum, the kind meant to blend into background noise, the kind crews convince themselves will go unnoticed. On a screen miles away, the image does not move. It doesn't need to. Nothing in the frame has changed for hours. And that, more than motion, is the signal everyone is waiting for. The feed is quiet in a way only surveillance can be quiet. No explosions, no radio chatter leaking into the picture. Just a road that has been used too often, tire marks pressed into the dirt, a tree line trimmed back just enough to suggest routine maintenance. The sort of place that stops feeling dangerous because it has been passed through so many times without consequence. Safety in war often arrives disguised as familiarity. The drone remains high, far above the reach of small arms, its presence invisible to anyone below. Its camera watches shadows lengthen and then shorten again as clouds slide across the sun. Operators mark timestamps, not because something happens, but because nothing does. Vehicles come and go on other roads, distant and irrelevant. This one stays quiet, quiet enough to invite assumptions. The assumption is simple. If this stretch mattered, something would have happened already. If it were being watched, there would be signs, interference, jamming, a sense of pressure. Instead, there is only the ordinary rhythm of logistics, the confidence that comes from repetition. Convoys don't announce themselves here anymore. They don't need to. The drone adjusts its angle by a fraction, not to follow movement, but to confirm absence. No new tracks, no hurried repairs, no camouflaging fresh earth. The operator notes it without comment. This is how patterns are built. Not from dramatic moments, but from long stretches where nothing demands attention. Hours earlier, the first hint appeared and then vanished. A vehicle paused longer than necessary at a bend in the road. A minor delay, easily explained, but it was logged. Everything is logged. When nothing else is happening, details gain weight. Not enough to act, just enough to remember. Time passes differently when watched through a lens. Minutes stretch, seconds compress. The people monitoring the feed are not waiting for action so much as confirmation. Confirmation that the routine below has settled into something predictable. Predictability is what allows patience to harden into confidence. By the time the convoy appears, it doesn't feel like an arrival. It feels like an expected return. The vehicles move at a steady pace, spaced carefully, not hurried, not cautious. No overwatch visible, no sudden changes in formation. The road accepts them the way it always has. From above, the shapes resolve into familiar outlines. Cargo trucks, support vehicles. Nothing that signals urgency. Nothing that suggests they believe they are being hunted. The convoy's discipline is real, but it belongs to another phase of the war, one where danger came from known directions and at known times. The drone does not follow immediately. It widens its view, confirming what is not there before focusing on what is. No escorts circling wide, no secondary movement parallel to the road. The sky remains empty except for itself. That absence is the last variable to be checked. This is the moment that matters, though it doesn't announce itself. No one says it out loud. There is no dramatic pause, just a subtle shift in posture, a quiet alignment of attention. The decision is not to strike, but to stop waiting, to accept that the pattern has revealed enough of itself. Even now, restraint holds. The drone tracks from a distance, letting the convoy commit further along the road. There is no rush to exploit surprise. Surprise, after all, is perishable. The longer it lasts, the more valuable it becomes.
The vehicles pass a landmark that has been studied for days, a place where the road narrows slightly, where options thin without being obvious. It is not a choke point in the classic sense. There are no dramatic cliffs or bridges, just terrain that limits improvisation by inches rather than miles. The strike, when it comes, is almost understated. A brief correction in the drone's position, a final confirmation of spacing, then a single release, precise and controlled, aimed not at spectacle, but at disruption. The camera does not shake, the frame remains steady. For a fraction of a second, nothing changes. Then the road becomes something else. A vehicle stops where it was not meant to stop. Another swerves, not away from danger, but into uncertainty. Dust rises, not in a dramatic plume, but as a consequence of sudden braking and confused momentum. The convoy does not explode into chaos, it hesitates. That hesitation is visible even from above. Doors remain closed longer than expected. Engines idle where they should have cut. The assumption of safety does not vanish instantly, it resists. A second action follows, not to amplify destruction, but to seal the confusion. Movement is restricted, not eliminated. The goal is not annihilation, it is containment. From the air, it looks less like an attack and more like a correction applied to a system that has drifted out of tolerance.
On the ground, realization spreads unevenly. Some vehicles attempt to reverse, discovering too late that the road behind them has become a liability. Others hold position, waiting for orders that do not arrive quickly enough. Radios crackle, but coordination lags behind the pace of events. There is no prolonged exchange, no sustained barrage. The operation does not linger. The drone observes long enough to confirm the effect and then begins to widen its view again. The point has been made. Remaining longer would only introduce unnecessary risk. As the camera pulls back, the scene below appears smaller, almost ordinary again. A stretch of road interrupted, a routine broken. From this height, the significance is not in what is burning or disabled, but in what has been exposed. What becomes clear, watching the aftermath, is how little force was required to create disproportionate effect. The convoy was not defeated by overwhelming firepower. It was undone by certainty that had gone unchallenged for too long. In the hours that follow, the road will be avoided, routes will change, procedures will be reviewed. None of that is visible in the immediate aftermath, but it is implicit. The real damage travels ahead of the news, reshaping decisions that have not yet been made. This is how modern battlefields shift, not through dramatic turning points, but through accumulations of doubt. Every place once considered safe now carries an asterisk. Every routine requires reconsideration. The cost is measured not only in equipment, but in tempo. The drone returns, or another takes its place. The sky does not announce the change. Surveillance continues, indifferent to the specific outcome of any single strike. What matters is the continuity of attention, the refusal to look away. For those below, the lesson arrives slowly. Safety is no longer a condition defined by absence of contact. It is something that must be actively maintained, constantly questioned. Familiar roads no longer promise protection, they advertise predictability. From a distance, this operation will be described in brief terms: a successful strike, a disrupted convoy. But those summaries miss the essential truth. The decisive element was not the moment of impact, but the hours of restraint that preceded it. War has always rewarded patience, but here patience has become a weapon in itself. The ability to watch without acting, to let certainty form before committing, changes the balance in ways that are difficult to quantify but impossible to ignore. As the dust settles and the feed fades to another quiet stretch of terrain, one thing remains altered.
The assumption that safety can be inherited from yesterday does not survive contact with a sky that never stops watching.